I was thinking about how we all come here tonight as both victims and offenders. That is to say, people who have been hurt and also people who have caused hurt. And I don't mean that there are two categories of people in this room, the people who have been hurt this year and the people who have caused hurt this year. Rather, we've all been hurt, we've all been injured in some way. Somebody maligned us, somebody cut us off on the road. And we have also been the ones who behaved at times in ways that did not reflect our best judgment. We're the saints and the sinners. But, as we stood here earlier, as we held the Torahs, and we did that sort of dramatic pageantry at the beginning, may the court on high and the earthly court below give us permission to pray, all of us, Avar Yonim, sinners. Avar Yonim, from the root Ayin Bet Resh, to cross. It's the same root, actually, this is really interesting, as the word for Hebrew, the Hebrews, the Ivrim, those of us who crossed over the river, crossed into new territory, new spiritual territory, boundary crossers, except on Yom Kippur, Avar Yonim, it's not positive. Avar Yonim, all of us, are boundary violators. We have crossed lines. We have hurt people intentionally and entirely by mistake. And we'll say 5 times over the course of this day these words. We are not so arrogant or stubborn that we would say in your presence, God, of our fathers and our mothers, tzadikim anachnu v'lo hatanu, that we're righteous, we haven't done anything wrong. Aval anachnu hatanu, but we have. We're sinners, so says the tradition. Okay, as a rabbi, I have ample opportunities to offend and insult people daily. Every year before Yom Kippur, inevitably, I have conversations with people, usually who initiate them with me, and I'm very grateful for it, who want to clear the air about something. I did something, or said something, or I didn't do something, or I didn't say something. And that confused them, maybe, but at bottom it hurt them. And I am so grateful that you value the relationship enough with me to tell me when I've done something that I can say I'm sorry for. And by opening up the conversation, as hard as it might be for me to hear the ways in which I've fallen short, it gives me, the offender, the sinner, I know it's a weird word, right? We think about it as so Christian, but actually the word in Hebrew, chet, sin, it literally means to shoot the arrow and miss the target. You know, it's not like some irreparable stain on your soul, most sins. It's crossing a line. It's missing the target. It's missing the mark. And so when somebody lets me know I've done that, it actually opens the way, the possibility for us to then be in a deeper, stronger relationship than we would have been if you'd not said anything at all. And it's like when a bone breaks, right? It hurts. It hurts when the bone breaks. And then you reset it, and you align the pieces, and you have to hold them there for a while in order for the healing to happen. And then when it does, the site of the break is the strongest part of the bone. I want to talk tonight about the particular healing balm of a good apology. The thing that we say when we've screwed up. Aval anachnu hatanu, we've screwed up. So then, what do we do? If you've been paying attention to the news, it's been a bad year for apologies in America, I think. It's been a bad administration for apologies. As I was reading through these sins earlier with Henry, he said, doesn't it make you mad that our president's guilty of all of these things and he hasn't said sorry once? And this is the challenge of Yom Kippur. It's really easy to figure out when other people have done those things. The only redeeming thing I can think of that our commander-in-chief seems constitutionally incapable of forming the words, I'm sorry, or I have regrets. The only thing I can think that is redeeming about that, or the silver lining, is that we can see a clear example of what not to do. It's like an example by, just don't do that. We've also seen a number of public examples this year of men apologizing for sexual misconduct with apologies that kind of leave something to be desired. And when you look at them, many of them share common elements of what makes for a bad apology or a non-apology or a hashtag sorry, not sorry kind of apology. Think for a minute about a time when you've been on the receiving end of a bad apology. What made it a bad apology? When Mishkan was first getting started, a colleague plagiarized something I wrote. It was the support page on our website, and I remember it very clearly because I took a lot of pride in writing that first support page in 2011, and I happened to go to her church that morning, and they handed me a pamphlet, and I opened it up, and I started reading about Mishkan, except every place that I had typed Mishkan, she had replaced it with the name of her church. I was incredulous. I sat there, I could not believe it. I was sort of waiting for the part where she transitioned out of my words into her words, like she just used me as a runway and then took off and did her own thing, but that didn't happen. It was literally start to finish my words just with their church name in it. And I know imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, and I don't think that our donor bases really overlap, so probably the people who were looking at it that morning didn't know where it came from, but I felt betrayed. I felt invisible. I felt like I had done work that had been stolen. And so after the service, I wrote her an email, and I let her know that I'd actually been in the house that morning, and I'd seen the piece, and that I wished that she had called before using it, before copying and pasting it, to just ask my permission. And here's what she wrote back. She said, I loved what you wrote. I found it so inspiring. I didn't know you'd be visiting my church. Otherwise, I would have asked. Okay, good apology, not good apology. Yeah, right. Basically, she was saying, I just wish I hadn't gotten caught. Right? First of all, she didn't even pick up the phone to apologize. She justified, she explained herself, and it wasn't that great an explanation or justification, by the way. The whole thing left a bad taste in my mouth. And the relationship never recovered. I don't trust her. I don't trust her anymore. Rambam, the brilliant medieval philosopher, talks about how a person who has made tshuva, when confronted with the same situation in the future, would make a different choice. Will make a different choice. And that's how you know she's a true Baal tshuva. Rambam uses the example of a man sleeping with somebody he should not be sleeping with, and he says, complete tshuva is being in the same place, same room, same two people, same raging libido, and making a different choice. It is the tshuva that addicts make on a daily basis, multiple times a day, being in the same situation and making a different choice. And so how do you get to the place where you can be sure that in the same situation you would choose a different path, you would choose a different action, and then let alone, if there's been a victim, if there's been somebody you've hurt with your behavior, how can you demonstrate to the people around you, to the people that you've heard that you've changed, or that you're sincere in your commitment to get to the point where you can offer a sincere apology because you actually intend to do differently. So I wanted to just share what Rambam suggests as a few paths for us in thinking about how we might be people who construct apologies that actually move the ball forward, not backward, that actually help relationships grow and heal and not fall apart. And this is particularly important at a time in a culture where this isn't really being modeled for us by our celebrities and by our politicians. Okay, Hilchot Tshuva, the laws of repentance, chapter 2. He says, here's one path for you, the sinner. Pray on it. Cry. Beg. Ask God for help. I feel like a 21st century version of that would also include get a therapist, go to a support group, meditate, journal, reflect. Essentially, attempt to understand what motivated you to do that thing that was not a reflection of your best self. Would you actually do the same thing, the exact same thing again if given the opportunity? And if the answer is, I think I would, then don't you dare apologize, because you've got nothing to apologize for. It wouldn't be sincere, and everybody knows the smell of an insincere apology. So the second thing he says is give charity. Do what you can to repair the damage by helping others. I mean, obviously, yes, if there has been monetary damage done to the person you've hurt, repay that, fix it. But also give charity, make it bigger. You care about something, show your commitment to the cause. You're sorry, show your commitment to the bigger picture, to that cause. One of the really surprising things about some of the men accused of these sexual indiscretions and misconduct is that they're generally not standing up and donating hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to organizations doing trauma and rape counseling and prevention and women's equality and empowerment. They're not. And you might say, well, I mean, of course they're not, because if they did, then everybody would jump on them and accuse them of just doing it to assuage their guilt and clear their name. They're just doing it for selfish reasons. And I want you to know that as far as Judaism is concerned, if your dollars are supporting people in need and healing lives, your motivation is a secondary concern. So after screwing up, one of the frustrating realities is that we don't get to really control the narrative anymore about what happened or about our motivation. And that still shouldn't prevent us from doing the right thing. Third suggestion, separate yourself from the object of your sin. Essentially, give the person you hurt some space. You may be very eager to clear the air once you've done something wrong. You want to explain where you were coming from. You want to apologize sincerely. You really mean it. You want to repair the relationship. I can't tell you the number of times this happens, and all I want to do is fix it. I just want to fix it, and then I want to move on because we had a great relationship. Let's just go back to that. If you just understood where I was coming from, then you wouldn't. Shh. Rambam says not so fast. Tshuva takes time. Emotions unfold. We go through waves. We're angry. We're offended. We feel betrayed. We sit with the feelings. We realize, I felt betrayed because I loved and I trusted, and that trust was violated. I wonder if I will ever trust again, if that trust will ever be regained or re-earned. And the only way to know is give it some time. And not time to emotionally disengage and turn off, but rather time to sort of let sift and sort. Time apart from the person who provokes within you those same hormones that so often are driving our moods and our anger. Time apart from the feelings of being re-triggered when you see that person who hurt you or who made you feel uncomfortable. This part of the process can't be rushed. And while I, the offender may want to accelerate the healing process. That is not how healing works, and if you ask anyone who has taken a cast off a broken bone too early, you know that not only slows down the healing process, but it sets it back, possibly to the very beginning of the break, and maybe makes it worse. Rambam describes the person who apologizes too hastily, before the emotional work has been done, before there's been an opportunity for real tshuva. He says this person is like somebody who immerses in a mikvah while holding the carcass of a dead lizard. So, right, if you get that, a mikvah is supposed to purify you. And the reason why it purifies you is because your entire body is unencumbered. Your whole body touches the water, every part of it. And if you're holding anything in your hand, it's a problem. But especially something like a dead lizard, which is in and of itself tameh, impure. That nullifies the whole thing. If you're attempting an apology without having put in the work, you're like that person. It's not going to work. You can't rush the process. There has to be enough time to come to understand the weight of the mistake, the impact. We need to be able to empathize with the experience of the person that you hurt. And all of this is before approaching them. This could take days, depending on what the thing was. It could take years. When we have undertaken a sincere process of tshuva, along the lines of what Rambam describes, we may be ready to confess, to apologize. He says we should do it publicly for greater accountability. But whether one does it publicly or privately, it needs to include an admission of what you've done, stating in words what you did, and then stating in words regret and remorse that is actually real, convincing. You need to acknowledge in words the sincere appreciation of the impact of the action. And so that shifts the focus from, I'm sorry, I regret what I did, I shouldn't have done that, to, you must feel violated. You probably feel unsafe in your world now, unsure about who to trust. And it's because of something I did, and I'm sorry. Many psychologists will say that the empathy piece, the appreciating what the other person is actually going through because of what we've done, that is the piece of the apology that is usually missing. That's the ingredient most often absent. And obviously, any apology that begins with, I'm sorry, and I regret it, and I feel your pain, and then is followed by a comma, but, yeah, you know that's not a real apology. A real apology may involve the discomfort of knowing, as the offender, that there may be a perfectly reasonable explanation. And yet, now isn't the time for it. Maybe that comes later, after the apology, after you appreciate the impact, once you've opened the way by demonstrating sincere contrition. So last thing, we can ask for forgiveness. We can ask for forgiveness. It's not off the table to say, I understand if you don't, but I hope that you will forgive me. And as Rabbi Lauren very beautifully described on Erev Rosh Hashanah, we also can't expect a particular outcome. Tshuva doesn't come with the guarantee that those around you will appreciate what it means to have done the work that you've done. The relationship actually might be over, or it might be over for now. That's a hard pill to swallow. It might just be that the reward for having done the work is you knowing that you're a better version of yourself as a result of this thing that happened, and that everyone who comes to know you from here on in will get to know a better you. A good apology is less about receiving the response that you hoped for and making it all better, and more about demonstrating to yourself and others that you're truly sorry, that you understand the impact of what you've done, and that you intend to be better. That given the same circumstance, you'd be a bal tshuva. You'd do something differently. And tshuva doesn't come with any guarantees, let alone that somebody who you hurt will be prepared to forgive you because you're ready. They may be on a different timeline. So, like heavy stuff. And I said earlier, we're gonna speak here tonight as avaryonim, as the sinners, but I also want to speak to what it means when somebody comes forward with an apology like this, when we're the ones who have been wronged. So Rambam says, if a person has truly made tshuva along the lines described here, and the injured party hears the apology, they should forgive them. And if they won't or can't, and there are lots of good reasons why you may not be ready to forgive someone, as we've discussed. Their timeline might not be your timeline. But if you won't or can't offer forgiveness, the offender should come back a second time and ask again and reiterate remorse and ask again for forgiveness. And if you can't give it, they come back again a third time, Rambam says. And if you can't forgive at that point, now it's on you. Now, the person who has apologized has done what they can do. They've done all they can do. And it's actually up to us, then, the injured party, to reach out and make contact when we're ready. Psychologist Fred Luskin runs the Stanford Forgiveness Project in Palo Alto, California, and he helps people with long-standing, deep-seated emotional grievances sleep better and have lower cholesterol and anxiety and blood pressure and heart rates, and he helps them feel happier and more emotionally available in their lives, and he helps them do this by helping them forgive. And these are people whose children have been murdered, who have been the victims of unspeakable crimes, who have lost family members in gang violence and war. And he says, everybody needs time to grieve and to go through the process of building what he calls emotional competence and healing. And we have to be able to name and feel what went wrong and be able to speak about it and gain some sense of control over whatever happened before there can be a conversation about forgiveness. And there's no prescription for the timing of that. It takes as long as it takes. Which is frustrating, as the people who just want to make everything better. And we know there's a certain catharsis, a spiritual lightness in letting go that comes with forgiveness. There is a repairing of the fabric of trust and humanity between people if we're able to acknowledge the reality of things that have happened to us, even though we are entitled to our anger and our resentment, and nonetheless to choose a different way forward because we can't change the past. Tshuva, it is said, is giving up the hope for a better past. Tshuva is giving up the hope for a better past. It's kind of what Kol Nidre is all about, relinquishing the grip that the past has on us and choosing a new way forward. A new apology can make all the difference in our being able to make a new way forward, a good apology, and a way that models that we all make mistakes. Mistakes are built into the fabric of the universe. Hatanu lefanecha. We have sinned before you. We can make devastating mistakes. And we are also capable of immense growth and repair. And that's what this holiday is about, and that's why it's such a joyful day. And so I want to ask us to stand now and pray and sing our way out of here. I want this to be a season of real tshuva for us. I want this to be a season of some good apologies to people we've hurt, and a commitment to growing and strengthening the fabric of love and humanity that connects us, even and maybe especially when we've screwed up. I want to wish everybody a Gemar Chatima Tova, that you should be inscribed and sealed for life and for health and for love and for forgiveness this year. I'm going to sing.
My heart and how oozy my eyes. I struggle to find any truth among lies. And now my heart stumbles on things I don't know. My weakness I feel I can finally show. Lend me your hand and we'll conquer them all. Lend me your heart and I won't let you fall. Lend me your eyes, I can change what you see. But your soul you must be totally free. Fickle my heart and how oozy my eyes. I struggle to find any truth among lies. And now my heart stumbles on things I don't know. But my weakness I feel I can finally show. And these bodies we will live, in these bodies we will die. Where you invest your love, where you invest your life. In these bodies we will live, in these bodies